Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 6, Chapter 1. And today we have to start with text 53. We have been hearing the conversation between the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamadutas, where the Yamadutas have been telling that, oh, on what basis are they punishing everyone? And a few classes earlier, there were some questions which had come up. So we brought up some questions and I referred to Guru Maharaj. Like I asked him, what if one just chants once, and never chants again? And then they're engaging in sinful activities. Then what happens? Means for a short time somebody's done devotional service and then they don't engage, then they are engaging in sinful activities. So Guru Maharaj replied that they don't immediately go to hellish planets. They get chance to become devotees. They are given a chance. So Krishna will give them a chance to take up devotional service, as we are going to see in this story of Ajāmila. But if they don't take advantage of that, then they will end up in hell. And also I asked, what about one who's chanting offensively? What happens? So offensively, they don't go to Yamalok. They don't have to go see Yamaraj. Regularly chanting, but chanting offensively, but will still stay in this material world of birth and death. Go in different planets. And there was another question that do we go in our subtle body or in gross body to these hellish planets, right? So in the subtle body, not in the gross body, in the subtle body. And the Paramatma always stays with the soul. Even going to the hellish planets or heavenly planets, anywhere we go, the Paramatma is always there. So these were a few questions that had come up. And these were the answers. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Any more?
Yes.
So if we need any further clarifications, then, we can. But I think these were quite clear, right?
Yeah.
Yes, very much. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay. So reading, Nahi kaschid shanam api
Nahi kaschit kshanam api
jatu tisthati akarma krit
jatu tishtati akarma krit
karyate hi avasha karma
karyate hi avashya karma
guner svabhavikair balat.
Gune
Gune
swabhavike balat.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Not a single living entity can remain unengaged even for a moment. One must act by his natural tendency according to the three modes of material nature, because this natural tendency forcibly makes him work in a particular way. The svabhavika, or one's natural tendency, is the most important factor in action. One's natural tendency is to serve, because a living entity is an eternal servant of God. And the living entity wants to serve, but because of his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord, he serves under the modes of material nature and manufactures various modes of service, such as socialism, humanitarianism, and altruism. However, one should be enlightened in the tenets of Bhagavad Gita and accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that one give up all natural tendencies for material service under different names and take to the service of the Lord. So here the Yamadutas are saying, because it's our natural tendency to work, no? So we cannot be unengaged even for a moment. Natural tendency, what is that called? Here in Sanskrit?
It's the Jeev Dharma, Jeev Dharma.
Swabhavika.
Swabhavika. Yeah. So what is actually one's natural tendency?
To serve Krishna with love.
Yeah, it's to serve. Our natural tendency is to serve because we are all eternal servant of God. But now we have forgotten God. We have forgotten. So, but we still have this tendency to serve. So what we are doing, we are serving society, community, country, humanitarianism, altruism, socialism. And this is happening under the modes of nature. Krishna is, of course, telling us in Bhagavad Gita, you give up everything and you surrender to me, because he wants us to come to our original position. So one's original natural tendency is to act in Krishna consciousness, because one's real nature is spiritual. The duty of a human being is to understand that since he is essentially spirit, he must abide by the spiritual tendency and not be carried away by material tendencies. So we say, okay, I don't want to serve Krishna. So we are in the world, in this material world, but we end up serving the modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. They bind us, then they force us to act. So indirectly, we can see, we say, oh, we don't want to serve Krishna directly, but then indirectly we still serve him because he is the master of the modes. Now the choice is ours. We want to serve Krishna directly, or we want to serve him indirectly. What Prabhupada is saying, it's our duty, since we are all spiritual beings, we should abide by spiritual tendency and not be carried away by material tendencies. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has therefore sung, Miche Mayara Vashe, Yacha Beshe, Acha Habu Tubu Bhai. My dear brothers, you're being carried away by the waves of material energy and are suffering in many miserable conditions. Sometimes you're drowning in the waves of material nature, and sometimes you're tossed like a swimmer, struggling in the ocean. Because after all, we do have a free will. We can exercise our free will. That choice is there at any time for us. Even though, yes, we are under the modes, but at any time, we can take up devotional service. In animal body, we cannot do that. In animal body, we are not able to exercise this free will that we have. But in human body, we can. As confirmed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this tendency to be battered by the waves of Maya can be changed to one's original, natural tendency, which is spiritual, when the living entity comes to understand that he is eternally Krishna Das, a servant of God, Krishna. So when Prabhupada is saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, when one can understand this Sambandha Gyan, and we can get this Sambandha Gyan. Oh, what is my relationship with God? Oh, I'm eternal servant of God. Then one can engage in this relationship, serving God, serving Krishna. Jiva Krishna Das, A Vishwas, Karleta Ar Dukhanai. If instead of serving Maya, under different names, one turns his service attitude toward the Supreme Lord, he is then safe, and there is no more difficulty if one returns to his original natural tendency in the human form of life by understanding the perfect knowledge given by Krishna himself in the Vedic literature. One's life is successful. So engaging in devotional service. This is what Prabhupada is saying. If we can just understand that we are spirit souls, eternal servant of Krishna, engage in Krishna's service, then we can easily get out of this material world. We can easily be situated in our original spiritual positions. Is that okay?
Yes.
Labdva nimittam avyaktam.
Labdhava
Labdva
nimittam
nimittam
avyaktam.
avyaktam.
Vyakta vyaktam bhavati uta.
Vyakta avyaktam
avyaktam
bhavati uta.
uta.
Yatha yoni yatha bijam.
Yatha yoni yatha bijam.
Svabhavena baliyasa.
Swabhavena baliyasa.
The fruitive activities a living being performs, whether pious or impious, are the unseen cause for the fulfillment of his desires. This unseen cause is the root for the living entity's different bodies. Because of his intense desire, the living entity takes birth in a particular family and receives a body which is either like that of his mother or like that of his father. The gross and subtle bodies are created according to his desire. So we had read in that story of Puranjan where Narad Muni was explaining how we are creating our different bodies by our subtle body. By our desires, we are creating our future bodies. The gross body is a product of the subtle body. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 8.6. So a gross body is a product of the subtle body. Anyone wants to explain what does that mean?
Yeah.
The subtle body is endowed by 16 parts, right? The 5 knowledge senses,
Yes.
5
Yes.
working senses, and 5 sense objects.
Yes.
So because of this, I mean, according, right, to how we how our actions are using these
Yes.
senses, then that's how,
Yes.
right, we get
Yeah.
the gross body.
Yeah.
And also,
So
of course,
right
the mind.
now, yeah, the mind. So because of our desires, which is all stored in our mind,
Yes.
and then this is how we are creating our future gross body. So when we say our destiny is in our own hand, this is how our state of mind, our state of desires, that is what is going to give us our next gross body. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 8.6, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyachate ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. The atmosphere of the subtle body at the time of death is created by the activities of the gross body. Thus, the gross body acts during one's lifetime, and the subtle body acts at the time of death. The subtle body, which is called linga, the body of desire, is the background for the development of a particular type of gross body, which is either like that of one's mother or like that of one's father. According to the Rig Veda, if at the time of sex, the secretions of the mother are more profuse than those of the father, the child will receive a female body. And if the secretions of the father are more profuse than those of the mother, the child will receive a male body. These are the subtle laws of nature which act according to the desire of the living entity. If a human being is taught to change his subtle body by developing a consciousness of Krishna, at the time of death, the subtle body will create a gross body in which he will be a devotee of Krishna, or if he is still more perfect, he will not take another material body, but will immediately get a spiritual body and thus return home back to Godhead. So here Prabhupada is of course saying how that Rig Ved says how one can get a male child or a female child depending on whose secretions is more. So depending on that, there's going to be a male child coming or a female child.
So this
And
is like
then,
chromosomes, right?
I'm sorry?
Chromosome, no? Chromosomes, like it's X or Y.
Chromosomes. Yeah, that's right. And then Prabhupada is mentioning that if we can change our subtle body, we change our subtle body, how? By developing Krishna consciousness. Then at the end of life, then our next body, we can get the body of a devotee. Or if our consciousness is so changed, then no more material body can get a spiritual body, go back home, back to Godhead. So how our desires are purified when we engage in devotional service. And then that's how the next body can be a devotee body or can go back home, back to Godhead. This is the process of the transmigration of the soul. Therefore, instead of trying to unite human society through pacts for sense gratification that can never be achieved, it is clearly desirable to teach people how to become Krishna conscious and return home back to Godhead. This is true now and indeed at any time. So Prabhupada is pointing out that, we do so much for human society, but if we can just teach this science of how this transmigration is happening, if we can change our subtle body, then we can go back home, back to Godhead. Comments?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you please more elaborate about gross body and subtle body? Like what exactly difference between these two and how we are going to, like our liberation is based on subtle body, right?
Yeah, so subtle body is our mind, intelligence, and false ego. That's our subtle body. We cannot see it. Gross body is this body that we can see.
Like this physical body.
Physical body that we are able to see. This is our gross body. How we look, or we are in the form of a woman and all this. So subtle body we cannot see. Mind, intelligence, false ego. So all our desires are stored in the mind. So although we are working with the gross body, our senses, we are working, but we are working based on our subtle body. What our desires are, what our mind is telling. And like that, what the desires are, we are going to get a new body based on that, based on our desire and our work. So if the subtle body is purified, one has become pure devotee, he has only spiritual desires, then his next body will be spiritual body. But if one's subtle body is, right now maybe he's in the body of a man, but his desires and his subtle body is like that of an animal, then the next body will be of like an animal. Gross body will be animal. Is that becoming clear? Like on how we are thinking, what's our consciousness, what's our desires? That's how we are creating our new bodies.
But like we are saying like Atma and Paramatma. So we have Atma and Paramatma in both bodies? Like self-ego, ignorance, or what we are thinking. So there also the Paramatma is, right?
Yeah,
no?
Okay. Okay.
Because I am quite confused.
Okay. Look at it like this. The soul is there his soul is there, then it's covered by the subtle body. Okay, it's like how this body, then we wear our inner clothing. We wear our inners, right? And then on top of that, we wear our outside clothes. So our body is there. Then we wear our inside clothes. Then we wear our outside clothes. Okay, so like that, the soul is there, is covered by the subtle body. And then the subtle body is covered by this gross body that we can see. And the Paramatma is sitting next to the soul.
Oh,
The
okay.
Paramatma is not concerned. Yes, Auntie Rashmi.
हाँ, हरे कृष्णा। जैसे ही हम ये शरीर छोड़ते हैं ना, ये शरीर छूटा हमारा, तो अब हम अपने साथ में ले जाते हैं लिंग शरीर। लिंग शरीर यही है, मन, चित्त और अहंकार, यानी माइंड, इंटेलेक्चुअल, फॉल्स ईगो, इसको लिंग शरीर बोलते हैं फिर।
ओके।
हाँ, फिर वो लिंग शरीर से अभी फिर हमने जो किया है कर्मा, उससे बना हुआ है ये, जो हमने अब इस बॉडी से कर्म किए और जो हमने अच्छाइयां कलेक्ट किए, जो हमको फल मिला, वो हम अपने साथ लेके जाते हैं ये लिंग शरीर में।
बट फिर हमारा प्रारब्ध भी तो रहता है ना,
हाँ,
तो ये कैसे इंटर रिलेटेड रहता है?
हाँ, फिर इसी से फिर हमारे दूसरी बॉडी बनती है। वो फिर आत्मा लिंग शरीर वेट करता है कि हमने जो कर्मा किए उसके अनुसार हमारे लिए वो बॉडी तैयार हो रही है, फिर हमारी ये आत्मा फिर उसमें जाती है। या तो हम वैकुंठ धाम चले जाते हैं, या तो फिर से हमको दूसरी बॉडी मिलती है इसके अनुसार, इस लिंग शरीर के अनुसार, कि हम मानव का शरीर लेंगे, एनिमल का लेंगे, एंट का लेंगे, बर्ड का लेंगे, कौन सा लेंगे।
Is that okay, Ratna?
Yes. We'll discuss later. Actually, I am really.
I think
just
Shilpa
confused.
said just little earlier, maybe you missed it. She said Paramatma is
Yeah,
already.
no. I heard that. That's
Yeah.
why at that time I was
Yeah.
not interrupted.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, she just said it before the class. Paramatma
yes.
is always there with Atma,
Yes,
and
yes.
परमात्मा तो है ना, बिना परमात्मा के तो
हाँ,
होंगे ही नहीं।
वो मैंने
वो
सुना
है
था
ही।
कि वो तो हमेशा हमारे साथ है। आप
yes,
है।
and
subtle
he's
body हो,
there
gross
as
body हो, he
yes,
is inside our soul.
he's there
क्योंकि
as a
सोल,
witness.
हाँ,
He's
क्योंकि
there as
सोल
a
तो है
witness.
ही है ना,
As
सोल तो है
he's
ही
there
है
as a
ना,
witness,
तो
and
फिर
he's also there
परमात्मा
as
भी है।
लेकिन
he's there as a
मतलब मेरा
witness.
थोड़ा confusion ये है कि we have subtle body, we have gross body, and we have one inner soul also, like inside the subtle body, right?
We are the
Yeah, the
soul,
subtle
right?
body
She
is
said, right?
made of all this.
Yeah.
It's the
So
mind, the soul also comes in.
how
It's
these
the
all are
subtle.
interrelated, like, and what is relation between our past karma, like
See,
prarabdha? We
as
say.
I'm saying, okay. See, you are, suppose, as I'm saying, okay, like take a coconut. Coconut, inside there is the water. So pretend that that is the soul. Then the
Yes,
coconut is covered by the white
cell.
part.
Yeah,
So
cell.
the pulp, that is the subtle body.
Subtle
Then it's
body,
covered
yes.
by the shell. That
Ah.
shell is the gross body.
Gross body.
Now, okay,
Yes,
now
yes.
we are the soul, right? We are the soul. And sitting next to us is the Paramatma. The Paramatma does not have any gross body. He does not have any subtle body. He's always transcendental. He's always in his spiritual body. He's just sitting right next to us. Just like two birds are sitting on the tree. They're sitting on the same tree. They're sitting next to each other. But they're individual. They're different. Okay. And how we act. How we act, that's the reaction we'll get. Right? So by our action, we are going to get some reaction, some karma we are going to get. And that karma is what we are going to get in our next body.
So
तो
Ratna, you are
इसमें
saying the prarabdha,
क्यूमुलेटिवली
right?
क्यूमुलेटिवली जाता है ना, जैसे मेरा अगर प्रारब्ध कुछ छूट गया यहाँ पे जो हम नहीं भोग पाए यहाँ पे, लाइक पनिशमेंट और रिवॉर्ड वॉट एवर इट इज, तो दैट विल गो लाइक एज अ क्यूमुलेटिव इन नेक्स्ट लाइफ, राइट?
In your
Yes.
yeah.
और आज
Yes.
वाला जो मतलब ये प्रेजेंट लाइफ में है वो तो रहेगा ही रहेगा जो भी है।
Yeah.
रहेगा, और
So,
जो सिंस है, प्रारब्ध है, मे बी यहाँ
हाँ,
पे भी हम लोग को भोगना पड़ेगा ना।
भोगना पड़ेगा,
but
या
there is
भोगना है या रिवॉर्ड है, वॉट एवर, मतलब जो भी है।
but see, one point you all have to understand that
हाँ,
karma is not eternal. Karma can be changed. This is
चेंज,
what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. This
by
is what
chanting
he's
and
saying.
hearing, right?
Surrender to me.
Surrender,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Yes,
So
yes.
that
Okay.
your future body's karma can all be burnt away by chanting. That's what we are saying, that when we chant
So
all our
yeah,
sins,
like transformation can be
so
possible.
remember
Okay.
that karma can be changed. Karma is not eternal. There are 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita: soul, super soul, time, prakriti, and karma.
Correct.
Out of which the other 4 are all eternal, but karma is temporary. Karma is not eternal. Karma can be changed.
Now understand. Yeah, now
So
got
this
the
is what
point. Yes,
now
yes.
Prabhupada is saying.
Yes,
Now
yes.
Prabhupada is saying, okay, all our desires are stored in our subtle body, but clean this subtle body. How? By hearing and chanting. Clean it. So the next body can be a body of a devotee. Or if the cleaning is
Can
done
be
so good,
liberate. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
if the cleaning is so good, no need any more material body. Get a spiritual body. Go back home, back to Godhead.
Like how
Is
you
that
had
okay?
mentioned, right? Anartha and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Now clear. Now clear. Yeah.
Now clear?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, that's why I was confused, like
Thank you.
how if these all three are interrelated and how the past karma, present karma, and like now I got like karma can be changed. We can transform
Yes.
our karma by chanting
Yes.
and hearing and surrender to Lord Krishna. Okay.
Exactly. Yes. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. Yes, yes.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So going on, Esha Prakriti Sangena,
एषा
Isha
प्रकृति
Prakriti
सङ्गेन
Sangena
Purushasya Viparyaya,
पुरुषस्य
Purusya
विपर्ययः
Viparyaya
Asit Sa Eva Nachirad,
आसीत् न स एव न
Eva
चिरः
Nachirad
Isha Sangad Viliyate.
ईश
से
Isha
संगात्
संगात
Sangat
विलीयते
विलीयते.
Since the living entity is associated with material nature, he is in an awkward position. But if in the human form of life, he's taught how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, this position can be overcome. The word Prakriti means material nature, and Purusha may also refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one wants to continue his association with Prakriti, the female energy of Krishna, and be separated from Krishna by the illusion that he is able to enjoy Prakriti, he must continue in this condition, in his conditional life. If he changes his consciousness, however, and associates with the Supreme Original Person, Purusham Shasvatam, or with his associates, he can get out of the entanglement of material nature. So our desire, our choice. See, our choice. What do we want? We want to continue to live in this material world. Then our karma and prarabdha and all this will continue. We want to remain in illusion, it will continue. However, if we want to change, if we can change, if we take up hearing and chanting in the association of devotees, and in this way associate with God, because Krishna is his holy name. The holy name is Krishna. So this is how we are associating with God. And in that way, if we can change our consciousness, then we can get out of the material nature. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Evam Yoveti Tattvataha. One must simply understand the Supreme Person, Krishna, in terms of his form, name, activities, and pastimes. So, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. What Krishna is saying, that understand that my form is transcendental. He's saying, understand my name is not material. It's not like how our names, we have different names, whatever names we have. But Krishna, when we are saying Krishna, is Krishna himself. Like when Ajāmila said Narayan, he was calling his son. But for that moment, he was completely absorbed in Narayan. He was associating with Narayan. So God, his name, his form, his activities, his leelas are transcendental. Krishna's activities are not material. So, Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma. This will keep one always in the association of Krishna. Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma Naiti Mameti Sorjana. Thus, after giving up his gross material body, one accepts not another gross body, but a spiritual body in which to return home back to Godhead. So if one can understand that Krishna's form, name, pastimes, everything is transcendental, then when one gives up, death means what? Giving up the gross body. So then when one gives up the gross body, the new body, one can get spiritual body, go to the spiritual world. Thus one ends the tribulation caused by his association with the material energy. In summary, the living entity is an eternal servant of God, but he comes to the material world and is bound by material conditions because of his desire to lord it over matter. So we are eternal servant of God. We belong to the spiritual world. We should be in our spiritual body. We should not be in this material body. But because we want to enjoy this material world, because of this desire to enjoy this material world, so we have come to this material world. So we need appropriate clothing. Like if we have to go scuba diving, we have to wear appropriate clothing, so that we can go into that ocean atmosphere. So similarly, we are spirit souls, but we want to be in this material world. So for us to be in this atmosphere, we are given this material body. Liberation means giving up this false consciousness and reviving one's original service to the Lord. So liberation means when one can understand that I am eternal servant of God. That is real liberation. This return to one's original life is called mukti, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, muktir hitvan yatha rupam swarupena vyavasthitihi. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So like Ajāmila, he chanted offenselessly. When he chanted Narayan, that was not offensive, offenseless. So the Vishnu Dutas came to save him. I think we'll have to stop here today, no? Because, yeah, then we might go over time. So we'll stop here for today. Thank you so much for listening and joining in. Sorry, I was not able to read yesterday, last minute. Shla Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Hare